It's a bright, sunny Thursday.
And here we are at Austin Matthews Coffee Shop.
Austin Matthews Coffee Shop. Is he into Tim Hortons now, too? Is he buying his own franchise?
Well, I was just trying to give the impression we are not in the Hobbit hole, but out. Remember the origins of our show was here we are in a coffee shop talking about all the things what we talked about already this morning at your table before we came here.
Is this a Going Down Memory Lane podcast where we're going to talk about the origin story of the Jim and Terry show?
No, it was. I meant it to be a reminder to our listeners,
our ones and twos,
mostly ones, that we're just two, not necessarily experts in our field, talking about.
We're two retired guys. And have you heard, Jim, the stuff that I heard this week?
So with that. What have you heard?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that blueberries are good for you.
I had blueberry pancakes Terry made me for breakfast.
Yes.
And no, he doesn't. He's not in a beautiful gown while he's cooking, waiting for me to come.
No.
His wife might get a little upset with that.
No.
Indifference
rules the roost. Yeah. Okay, what did I hear this week? Well, I heard that Ukraine has been forbidden to use Western long-distance weapons to attack the Russian countryside, to go after Russia on their territory.
Why?
Why? Because they don't want to be complicit with an attack on Russia.
No, but they can't use long-range weapons because they're American.
Well, America is just one of the suppliers.
All right.
Germany has some, France has some, Italy has some. I think everybody's got long-range weapons that are capable. But no one wants to be the one whose cruise missile is found to have exploded near the Kremlin or whatever. So that's despite Kyiv being attacked directly and the tanks almost went down the main street in 2022, February. So despite all that, you have to fight the Russians with one hand proverbially tied behind their back, and I've never understood that. It's fighting for your life. Why are you prevented from fighting in Russian territory? So I never understand that. But be that as it may, Ukraine has developed another strategy, which is to fight Russia wherever Russians are. And that's sort of military at this point, but I wonder if it crosses over into other activities. But let's start with the military. And the case is Khartoum, which I think is Sudan, which is south of Egypt, which is where the Russians' special operations are supporting the rebels in that country. And so Ukraine is training the opposition and is in there to kill Russian and oppose Russia's military presence wherever they are. And that was just
I think
one
it's
example.
A good strategy.
How can one small country do that?
I don't know, but I have a solution to their not being able to strike Russia.
Okay, this is where we're going. Okay. Have you heard?
Yes. Preferably, if they release the $365 billion that's being held by Russian oligarchs, and Putin, and release that to Ukraine, that money. But even if they don't do that, my plan would be this. No, we're not going to gift anything to Ukraine anymore. Big announcement. They're going to have to purchase it, but we'll give them credit. So now that they've purchased a long-range missile, it's no longer America's. They've just bought it like any other country. They can do what the hell they want with it, right? And
Why
then
not?
At the end of the war, mercy. Your debt has been forgiven.
That's sort of like a Lend-Lease policy. The U.S. ran weapons through Canada and out across the Atlantic Ocean in those convoys during World War II before the Japanese attacked the U.S. So from 1939 to 41, it was a Lend-Lease policy where Britain didn't have money and needed the weapons to defend itself, or it was going to fall to Hitler's blitz.
Yeah.
And so the strategy was, well, we will funnel arms on a Lend-Lease. We'll lend these ships to you. Well, meanwhile, the half of them are going to get sunk across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So there's no practical repercussions. It's just the language is Lend-Lease. Yes, we sold them to them. Yeah. So
Well, but if you said to Ukraine, okay, we're no longer giving you anything. You're going to buy it, and of course behind the scenes it's shake, wink, wink.
Right.
We're going to give you $1 trillion credit.
Right.
And
And
so
that'll
you
come out of the money that's being held of the oligarchs.
well, that would be my greatest hope. Actually, to make a statement, it would be better to give them that money and let them purchase what they need to purchase.
Yeah.
And then worry about credit back for rebuilding of the nation.
So you're arguing then that if weapons are purchased, the country doing the purchasing is morally free to do what they want with those weapons?
Well, in war, I'm not saying I'm not. It's bizarre to me as well how a country can annihilate your country, and you do not have the right to strike back. I mean, I even say Hamas, if you're not going to surrender, has the right to strike back if they want to. I think it's stupid.
If Hamas doesn't surrender, Israel can continue the fight.
And well, you know what side I'm on, Israel. Because Hamas is an evil entity that must end, or it's just going to repeat itself again.
Okay, so
and that's another story. So what I'm saying, if Russia is attacking your country, knowing they're never going to be attacked, well, there's no real big deal there, because especially if you're a Putin, couldn't care less how many people die, couldn't care less. But you start hitting Moscow or some of the cities around the southern border and start annihilating them, you might have an uprising of the people.
Now, I think that's what they have. Ukraine has sent drones and...
No, they haven't sent the good stuff.
No, you're right.
You painted a picture when the Greek prime minister was with Zelensky, and they're at the podium,
right.
and 150 meters behind them, Russians bombed.
Yes.
Just to say to you, we could have killed you.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's
it's
the
time to
warning.
do the same thing to Putin. Bang. What about hitting his assets? What about hitting his ass? Yeah.
Assets.
Well,
I like that.
well, you think about his mansions. You think about his yacht.
Yep.
You think about all this stuff. Take them all out if you can.
Yeah, if you can, you're going to have to use drones or cruise missiles or something
Or
like that.
good American-made.
Good American-made long-distance weapons. I'm thinking that something is changing, and I'm thinking of a speech Macron made, which is saying, alluding to the possibility, I think we mentioned this a week ago, boots on the ground should not be ruled out. Everything is on the table. And that 150 meters away from the Greek president, it could have been a shot at Zelensky. It would be a 2-4, a 2-4-1 if I got the Greek one. Is that the way Putin is thinking? Like how much of a brinksman? Have you heard that phrase, brinksmanship?
Well,
where you go right to the edge, but you don't go with that.
Well, if you want to deal in the world of propaganda and talk, the Greek president should make an announcement to the world that I don't take lightly their threat to me. And that's a definite threat to me. I'm not going to be afraid.
Greece is
all the rest
NATO.
of it. What's that?
Greece is NATO.
Yeah, but that's what they should say the rhetoric back.
Yeah.
Russia threatened me with that missile. How do I know they just didn't miss their mark? And it was intended to kill me.
Now, I've heard it said that Zelensky's been targeted for assassination. The number I heard was 16, but I have no way of verifying that. 16 death attempts, assassination attempts on Zelensky. He's survived all of them thus far. Why not do what I'm going to say Tito. Tito is what, Romania or Hungary? Going back to 1950-something, when the Russians wanted to take him out and tried. And he knew it was the Russians, so he sent a message directly to, I'm going to say it was Stalin, but I'm not sure he survived that long. But whoever was head of state of Russia at that time and said, I want you to stop sending assassins to kill me. And I have only this warning to you. I can play your game, and I will not need to shoot twice.
Oh, jeez.
And Tito remained in power for a long time, ruling with control. Just, maybe he was not as good as the Russian people, but he remained in charge of his country. My point, I don't know what my point is, except that maybe fight fire with fire. If they're attempting to assassinate Zelensky, is it fair game to go after Putin?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he's doing a special announcement, which he did before, 150 meters outside of that building, a major bomb goes off. The same thing is, oh, you were doing something? I did not know, comrade, you were doing something. Again, I would say if I was the Greek prime minister, I'd say I take that as a direct threat to me and to my nation.
Yeah, it's a threat, but it's not an action, and that's where the Article 5,
Doesn't
where
matter.
all NATO goes in.
The saying to him,
saw
you're
this.
coming very, very close to
Yes.
attacking a NATO nation.
Or is this going to be
Because you
another?
kill me, I'm a NATO nation
Is this
leader.
going to be like Obama's line in the sand in 2014? Putin drove across. They built the bridge, the Kerch Bridge. They built it all under the watchful eyes of everybody was watching this. It's like the thousands of tanks lining up in the border in Ukraine in February 2020.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you and I were saying, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
Absolutely
No, they're not
gonna do
gonna- And I kept on arguing, why don't you just blow all this stuff up while it's all lined up in nicely packages right along there and just wipe it all out. There will be no war because you just destroyed everything. But this... Obama said, this is the red line. You cannot cross. And over the bridge they went and they took Crimea. 2014. So it's happened. And people, until your nay is an actual boots on the ground nay, thus far and no farther. I mean,
Well, the sad thing, what we got going here is pretty sad. You showed me, I think it was you who sent me a map, and actually I don't know who else would do it, about what Russia thinks the world looks like.
yes.
Yeah, and he's already taken over a lot of the other nations.
Yes, he's taken over the whole Eastern Bloc.
Yeah,
it wasn't just Romania that was painted red.
yeah.
That was Medvedev. if
So
I'm
that's
not
his
mistaken.
goal. He's made that clear.
Yeah.
Any of you listeners who think differently, you're just got your head really stuck somewhere where it shouldn't be, because he's already posted the map of what his intentions are. It isn't just Ukraine. It goes into all of those other nations, some of them being NATO now.
Yep.
So that's just a fact. What
All
was
of
my
them
point?
are NATO,
Now
but
he's
Ukraine.
really, I got a feeling he's out of his mind so much, somehow he thinks he could win a nuclear war.
Oh my! If we're at that point, we're far past brinksmanship. Do you
Well,
remember?
he said that the West is going to cause the destruction of civilization.
Right, the West is.
The West is. Well,
Yes.
but isn't this
Well, the
Trump speak? All kind of speak like that.
yeah.
you
So
know?
the provocation, NATO expansion, was a provocation for this. Is a blatant falsehood, and we can look at the number of times countries have begged Russia to absorb them and protect them.
Oh, that would be none.
None. That would be none.
Yeah.
And we can count all the NATO countries who have expanded to this point, including the latest one, which is Sweden.
Well, this is what they have to understand, the people. No NATO country was taken over by NATO.
Or forced.
You got to understand, there was no force. It was them asking to be a part of NATO, not asking to be a part of the Eastern Bloc. And you who worship Putin, you really are backing the wrong guy here.
Jim has the final word. Bye-bye for now.
Is that it?